Yo, what's good my fellow Magic Knights? It is your boy DEADMANVINCE back with yet another JJK Phantom Parade video. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So today I do want to make a very specific type of video talking about what characters maybe you should be working on right now for mono teams in the future, because if you guys do not know, there's actually a live stream where it reveals everything in the first anniversary. You can watch that video. I did definitely cover that, break that down and cover it, but basically figured out that there is a mono team game mode, and it's called like Curse Exorcism, Daily Exorcism Battle or something like that. And another thing that's coming into the game at the same time that this game mode enters the game is like they're adding a hidden potential system, sort of like Dokkan, but in JJK Phantom Parade, except for in this hidden potential system, you are going to be boosting stats, of course, but instead of doing things like adding criticals and additionals and stuff like that, I think instead you're actually going to be upgrading the effects of your skills themselves, which is pretty cool because some of the skill effects seem like they're a little stock standard or like very, very basic for a character. So like for instance, I feel like there are some DPSs in here who have absolutely basic like DPS skills and don't have any extra like procs on them or anything, or any extra buffs on them or anything. So I think there are a couple of characters definitely that they do need to kind of add a little bit more, right? But today I'm going to be talking about mono characters that you should either definitely be working on because you definitely already have them, or B, I would even say like go out of your way to summon for this character so that you have an easier experience. And I wanted to do this in order from what color I had the least amount of options from to like what color I had the most options from, to kind of just, I don't know, it probably would have made more sense to do the longest video first, but besides the point, right? Y'all know I'll be rambling on sometimes anyway, so sometimes these videos can all be the same length, and I could have 12 characters in blue you should work on versus 2 characters in yellow you should work on. But anyway, today we're going to start off with yellow, because at first I thought I had the lowest number of options for yellow characters that you should be working on or even going out of your way to summon, but now I've kind of rethought it and looked at a couple characters and I've kind of remade some choices. So let's go ahead and just hop into the video here. The first character that we're going to be talking about is Curse Technique Boost Kaito Yuki. This character you absolutely 1 billion percent should be working on because he is literally a rare character. So you are literally pulling like every 3 summons that you do. I won't say every 3 summons because there are pages and characters, or recollection bits and characters, but like probably every 5 summons you do, you're probably seeing a copy of this guy. Granted, everybody's not doing big summon sessions, whatever, but like, say you did 2 summons on one banner, got lucky, got the new character, and then you did 3 summons on the next banner. I feel like your chances of seeing Kaito Yuki pop into those summons is not very like hard to, or not very low. You're going to see him maybe even twice in those 5 summons. Like, he's a rare character. His lowest rarity, the most likely thing to drop whenever you do a summon. So you will definitely get him very early on. Why do I say you should work on him though? Because if you're already going to have him, you might as well make use of him. His skill 1 is whatever. It's literally just a melee skill. Doesn't really matter. I don't really go to rare characters for melee damage or for high defense or tanking or anything like that. That doesn't really matter to me. This skill actually kind of sucks in my opinion. It's an defensive barrier skill and it decreases the selected ally's damage received by 39.4% for 3 turns, but it can only stack 1 time, which is kind of understandable. Letting damage stack to a point where there's like, because like, you know, with damage there's no real ceiling. There's only a few characters in the game who can hit numbers that are high enough to like one-shot a boss, right? Like Gojos can do that. Yuji's can probably do that. Maybe even Geto could possibly do that, right? Toji could probably do that, but it's not very common that many characters can just one-shot bosses with their damage. So letting the damage be something that can be stacked like infinitely, basically, not that big of a deal. Defense stacking infinitely is somewhat of a problem because then there is literally no difficulty in your event. If I use, well, you can't really cheese it out on Kaito himself because this skill right here recovers curse energy for everybody else. If it recovered curse energy for him as well, and he was just building that back into himself and he could use this skill as much as he wanted, that would be insanity, but that's just not how it works. But even still, the damage reduction skill is only okay, I say, because you can only do this to one specific ally, not all of your allies. In events that are typically harder, most of the time you're trying to protect multiple units. I mean, it could just be my experience playing global right now because everything is only level 91 versus like playing on JP, everything's max level now after the anniversary is like started, or I don't even think they released level 140 just yet, but like level 140 is about to be the max level, so there's a lot of extra stats in the mix there. So there's just a lot of things to consider, you know, from version to version. The main reason why I say you need to work on this man Kaito Yuki is because if you get this skill right here, not if, when, because we're resourceful, we're smart Magic Knights, and we know that we need to work on these characters and get them right so that we can have a better time, right? When you work on this man Kaito and you get his skill 3 to level 10, he recovers all allies cursed energy by 19 for 2 turns, bro. That is practically 40 cursed energy in 2 turns. You know, when you get a character to 2-star, they get an extra 10 starting cursed energy. So like, you get a character 2-star, they start at 40 cursed energy. This man Kaito literally is going to put you in a position where you can use that cursed energy and get that cursed energy back while you're using it, basically, right? In 2 turns time, you're gonna have 40 more cursed energy. You're gonna have 38. Okay, big whoop. But considering the fact that you also actually just naturally charge up cursed energy, that means that you're going to be getting over 40 cursed energy in those 2 turns, right? So this skill is very, very important. This skill works great, especially on like comps with Gojo too, right? Because you have 2 buffers. I have Nanami and Masamichi most of the time with my Gojo, buffing them up non-stop because we're boosting damage dealt, physical and or Jujutsu and Taijutsu damage all together. But Kaito puts it to a point where I can make sure I am consistently always doing those buffs for Gojo. So Kaito does definitely help your damage out a lot. And not to mention, if you use his, it doesn't have to be his combo ultimate, but we use his ultimate at level 10, increases all allies Jujutsu damage by 128.7% for 3 turns for 1 time, self-excluded. So that's the one part where it kind of sucks for Kaito. He is excluded out of all this stuff. The only thing that you can use and make the effect go on himself is this barrier right here if you select him. But then you're sacrificing putting that effect on other characters. So I think this skill could definitely use some work. Like if this was an AoE skill, it makes sense that this is not an AoE skill, because if this was an AoE skill, I can't front on you, Kaito would probably be the most perfect character, rare character, like in the most perfect rare character in all gacha games like ever. Like bro, an offensive barrier that reduces everybody's damage receipt by 40%, recovering cursed energy in a game where cursed energy is essential for every single skill, increases Jujutsu, like bro, he'll be too nuts. So literally you can tell that there are parts of the kit where they had to kind of like hold back on him, like right here and right here. You can tell they really had to hold back because like these 2 parts right here are insane. Then this right here, decreases own and allies combo damage received by 10% for 2 turns. This gets higher the more duplicates you put into him. Mine's 5 stars, so it probably went up to like 20% damage reduction or something. Even though the character that's beside him may not necessarily need damage reduction, he needs damage reduction because he is a rare character. So that's actually very good that he's just giving himself extra survivability. And I say survivability, you can say that that's a stretch, but like damage reduction, healing, like all kinds of things, extra survivability. But yeah, Kaito is absolutely a character that you need to be working on. Like this, there's no questions asked about this. Kaito's a rare character. You definitely have him in your account, so definitely work on him. Because if you're not using him and you're over here crying about a buffer, your answer is literally in your face and you're just not doing anything about it. But let's go ahead and jump over to the next character. Now this character is going to be a case of a character that you definitely should be using some cubes for. Granted, every single Gojo in the game that you see that is an adult Gojo, this is Teen Gojo guys, every single Gojo you see in the game that is an adult Gojo, they have a weird little caveat where they have to leave in 7 turns because Gojo is literally not the strongest thing in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, but the 2nd strongest. Anyway, every single Gojo in the game leaves in 7 turns except for this Gojo. So you have the big damage of a Gojo unit. It's not as much damage as, you know, any adult Gojo. Hollow Purple Gojo probably still the hardest hitter in the game to this point, right? But even still, you have somewhat the big damage of a Gojo character, and this version of Gojo does not leave at all. And can this one do Black Flash? No. This one, it says NA. Okay, I guess the characteristic is separate from the Black Flash. Yeah, so no Black Flashes for this Gojo, but when critical hit is performed, increases his own damage. So he does have a little characteristic. I don't think the rare Yuki had a characteristic. Skill 1 deals combined melee anti-jutsu damage, or no. Yeah, combined taijutsu and jujutsu damage to a selected enemy. 208% taijutsu, 158% jujutsu. Attracts the selected enemy's attack to self for 1 turn, but it's only a 35% chance of doing that. Well, honestly, that doesn't really matter that much. We're just here for the damage. And honestly, for a Gojo unit, I will be real, the damage multiplier on this skill feels a bit low comparatively. I gotta go back and look at his first skill on, I think his first skill scales all the way up to like 455 damage on off of Jujutsu, but this is Taijutsu and Jujutsu combined, so it scales a bit differently. This skill right here is skill 2, Limitless Curse Technique. Grants attack immunity to self for 3 turns. Increases own damage received by 30% for 3 turns. Increases own Jujutsu damage special by 5% for 5 turns. So I think it's saying it increases his ultimate damage if it's Jujutsu damage by 5% for 5 turns. I think that's what it's saying. While increased own Jujutsu damage special is active, change the skill into Curse Technique Disclosure. Increases own damage by 80% for 4 turns and increases own critical hit rate by 30% for 4 turns. So this right here is really good. But I think that increased own Jujutsu damage special, I think that is this right here, right? So once you use this once, you are in this status. And then the second time that you use it, it's going to have a sword here instead. Then you get this buff instead down here. So he has defensive buffing and damage buffing built into one skill. It's a little unique for sure, but it still gets the job done. And then this skill right here, Limitless Convergence. Deals 433 ranged Jujutsu damage to selected enemy. Decreases the selected enemy's damage by 30%. So that one, I prefer my DPSs to have skills that lower an enemy's defense versus lowering their damage. Like I don't necessarily want my Gojo to debuff an enemy. I'd rather have somebody else debuff an enemy because, you know, I have other characters predicated to that. If I have a Gojo, I want him to be the thing like destroying everything in sight. But even still, I have used this Gojo. Like I've used all these skills for sure. Like Gojo still hits hard. Don't get me wrong. He doesn't hit as hard as the other Gojos is the point that I'm trying to make to y'all right now. But he still does hit hard. Deals 433, I already read that. The ultimate. It just deals 1503.7 ranged Jujutsu damage to all enemies. It's 5 hits. But the combo skill increases own and combo allies crit damage by 15% for 4 turns. Crit damage, or that's crit damage, okay. I was gonna say crit rate buffs are kind of crazy in this shit. Crit damage buffs are crazy too. If you have another character who can do a crit rate buff, then that's fine. Also, since this Gojo does somewhat work off a taijutsu for this first skill here, maybe you could use a Toto with him in front of him and use the best friend buff to give that extra, you know, crit chance, to give that extra physical damage, just to make this skill a little bit stronger. But everything else, for the most part, literally ranges or scales off of Jujutsu, so keep that in mind. But no, this Gojo is definitely a wonderful character to get your hands on. Also, his auto skill. At the start of battle, grants attack immunity to self for 2 turns, increases own damage received by 30% for 2 turns, and then increases own Jujutsu damage special by 5% for 4 turns. And also, guys, you can see here, there is no extra skill that says that this Gojo leaves within 7 turns or anything, so no worries about that. Alright guys, so this one is actually a curveball. So originally, the only 2 characters that I had selected in this list were Rare Kaito and Teen Gojo. Those are the only 2 that I felt like, you know, either you already have them or you're already saving to summon them. So like work on these characters, right? But after doing a little more research, this Principal Masamichi Yaga seems quite impressive to me. Let's break them down together, guys. To be candid, I've never used this character. I've used Kaito. I use Kaito every single day, day in, day out, right now. I've used Young Gojo in the Japanese version. I literally, if I'm playing the Japanese version, Young Gojo is on my team. Literally, whatever I'm doing, Young Gojo's there. So I've used those 2 characters. This character I have not had an experience with, and the last character is a bit of a surprise. But skill 1. Masamichi has taijutsu here, but when he does his basic attack, he also decreases the selected enemy's critical hit resistance by 15%. So that's actually pretty good, because the other Masamichi, the SR one, he has a skill 1 that's just melee damage, but I don't think it has any sort of debuff or anything like that on it. Skill 2 deals range combined damage equal to 120% or 180.4% taijutsu and 45% jujutsu to the selected enemy. Decreases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 52.6%. And then Tsukamoto ignores darkness status when attacking. Like I said, I'm not really, actually no, he's not an attacker, he's a debuffer, so it's okay for him to lower people's damage like that. The skill 3 Now this one is a little crazy. Deals 100% taijutsu damage to selected enemy. Inflicts darkness status on the selected enemy. 65% chance. I'm sorry, let me turn that up. 97.8% chance. And it's 150.4% taijutsu damage. Increases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage received by 30.2% for 3 turns. No limit to that. That just stacks. Then increases the selected enemy's jujutsu damage received by 30.2% for 3 turns. So instead of this man stacking buffs, now he's stacking debuffs on the enemies. Oh wait! Increases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage received by 16.5% for 3 turns, and then increases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage received by 16.5. So maybe this is supposed to say taijutsu and jujutsu. I think this is a typo. But yes, it increases their damage received by a further 16.5% if a yellow unit is attacking. So this man is actually god tier for mono yellow because he already has really good general buffs for any sort of team. But then you throw into the mix that he is also doing extra effects for yellow, and it makes him kind of a no-brainer. But also, you guys might be thinking the SR Yaga is still better because you can stack that other buff up to. I know I can stack this debuff up to 3 times on the enemy, but what about that buff I used to be able to stack up to 4 times on myself? Oh, wait for it. I'm gonna skip his ultimate for a second. At the start of each turn, increases all allies' jujutsu damage and taijutsu damage by 46%. Guys, that can't stack because it's a part of his passive, but to give you perspective, I'm going to pull up the other Yaga. So first of all, there's an SR Yaga. When you get him to skill level 10, he does do basically the same thing as 45.8%, but the other Yaga is literally at 46% stock standard. All you have to do is summon the character and you get that. You don't have to waste all your skill upgrade materials, and it's not a waste for SR Masamichi. I was about to call him Young Masamichi. SR Masamichi is not a waste to level up his skills. He's a very good character. You're going to use him for a very long time until like more buffers you have availability to. But this right here literally does the buff that you're working to get level 10 for, like automatic, every single turn. Now, granted, it doesn't stack, but this Masamichi is still better. Because the Masamichi, the old Masamichi, the SR Masamichi, you used to stack a buff for your team. Now he's constantly giving the buff without you having to expend any curse energy at all. And now you can focus on constantly debuffing your enemies. So it's like double, he's pretty much doubling down on what he does. Instead of just giving you extra damage, now he's giving you extra damage guaranteed, not as much, but I'm making the enemies much weaker for you, which I like better because Masamichi, the SR Masamichi does actually have a debuff on his ultimate and on his skill 3, but the buff that he does is so important, I feel, that I never want to use those 2 skills. But now with this Masamichi, where it's naturally just built in, and him having such a diversified set of debuffs in his kit, I can kind of just switch around different skills and whatnot and see what I want to do. Now, his ultimate. And guys, this is kind of like a first time reading for me too, I guess. Deals ranged combined damage equal to 1,199.3 taijutsu and 360% jujutsu to all enemies. So he has an AoE ultimate, increases all enemies taijutsu damage received by 51.6% for 1 turn. And then jujutsu damage received by 51.6 for 4 turns for yellow allies. Increases all allies damage by 30.2% for 4 turns. Excludes himself. And then Kathy ignores darkness status when attacking. So theoretically, you're already getting this buff right here from his passive. You work him up to an ultimate, you drop that shit, you're increasing all allies damage for 4 turns, while still having this down here, then increasing all enemies damage received for 4 turns, and during those 4 turns, you are literally able to go back and double down and do skills like these right here, where you can continually increase the enemy's damage received by yellow characters specifically, or not by yellow characters specifically, but mainly for yellow characters. So this Masamichi actually gives me brain rot. Reading his kit gives me brain rot. This is so toxic that I'm looking at right now. Increases own and combo allies damage by 15% for 3 turns, so even more DPS. We love to see it, and it's AoE. So if Masamichi attacks with a crazy DPS who has a single target ultimate and he hits with them, then that single target ultimate all of a sudden turns into an AoE ultimate. So, or whenever they do their little combined effect. But like, nah, this Masamichi is actually dummy fire, and I'm gonna have to add him into my list of characters that I'm summoning for in my path to greatness on JJK. Deals range combined damage equal to 100% taijutsu and 50% jujutsu to all enemies. And then I already looked at this, but yes, no, this Masamichi is an absolute menace. If you get him, bro, he is worth the replacement on your Masamichi, the SR, and then some. He is absolutely insane. Now that I'm reading his kit like all together, because I saw this and I was like, okay, this is cool, but it doesn't stack. But now that I've actually come back in and fully like digested like what the hell it is he does, this man's ridiculous. But I have one more last little curveball character that y'all may not be expecting because I haven't really talked about him too much, but let's just go for it. The last character I'm gonna recommend is the Anniversary Yuji unit. Now, you may be wondering, Deadman, when did you get your hands on that? When did you try to? Yesterday. Yesterday, I did my first summon on Yuji's banner and summoned him. But you know what's crazy about that, chat? I didn't realize that was my first summon on his banner until today, when I logged in on the JP version, did a multi, and then looked at my pity points and realized I only had 20 pity points. So I summoned Yuji. I summoned Anniversary Yuji, one multi. So I did use him. I've used him, and I had enough SSR characters. Not even SSR characters. I just had enough of the like character points saved up and a few SRs and rares and whatever in my JP account that I traded them in. I got enough points to buy a general dupe, and I gave the general dupe to Yuji. So I already have him like one duped. I don't know how hard I'm gonna chase for that second dupe, just because I know domain expansion Gojo is on the horizon here. Literally on the 29th, right? So in 6 days, oh my gosh, in 6 days, domain expansion Gojo comes. So I gotta get to grinding on the JP version some more. But guys, let's give a quick breakdown of this man Yuji. Resistant to poison, soul damage, able to attack the soul. When black flash is performed, increases own ability. So I don't know exactly what that means, but maybe it means when he does a black flash, he just does more black flash. I don't know what increases own ability means. That's a very vague statement. But yes, he can do black flashes, obviously. So I'm gonna go over the ultimate first, because that is the linchpin of this kit. Or I guess the auto and the ultimate. So the auto skill. At the start of each turn, if zone state is activated, increases own taijutsu damage by 30%, increases own black flash rate by 50%, increases own cursed energy consumption efficiency, recovers own cursed energy by 10, cannot activate own ultimate skill, performs an additional action 1 turn, reduces zone state count by 1 at the start of the next turn, and reduces own skill cursed energy cost by 1. So basically what this is saying is whenever you're in the zone, you're going to increase your black flash rate and your taijutsu damage. Your curse techniques are going to cost less, so like they cost like 5 less to do or something like that. You're going to gain 10 curse energy every turn, but you're going to lose 5 every turn. So altogether, you're going to lose 10 curse energy, gain 20. So you're just going to gain 10 extra curse energy for the next like 2 turns, right? Then also, you can't use your ultimate while you're in zone status because your ultimate puts you in zone status. So it'd be I guess unfair if you kept cheesing and spamming zone, right? But then also, when it says reduce zone state count by 1, literally your zone counters just go down every turn. When black flashes perform, recovers own curse energy by 5. So yeah, once you go into the zone, the next turn, once you just start popping off them black flashes, literally you're expending 5 cursed energy every skill, but gaining 10 cursed energy every skill. But actually, every time it's a black flash, you're gaining 15 cursed energy. So absolutely disgusting, an absolute sicko. Vessel of Sukuna. At the start of battle, grants poison and soul damage resistance to self, and grants immunity to instant death effects caused by soul damage to self. Evil work. Now, let's look at his ultimate and then we'll look at the rest of his skills. Ultimate, Black Flash. I love the animation for this ultimate because he literally just like punches you, and when he punches you, you can see him like lock in. But I love the fact that Yuji can just do Black Flash on command. This is actually a very fire, like kind of like character archetype for him in this game actually. But at level 10, it does 1500 melee jujutsu damage to the selected enemy, activates the zone state for 2 turns, we already looked at zone, and then guaranteed to perform a black flash. So the ultimate is guaranteed to perform a black flash, but that is because the ultimate is literally a black flash. Recovers own and combo allies curse energy by 20, and then deals 192% melee taijutsu damage to selected enemy. Alright, now we can look at the rest of his skills. Skill 1. Deals 240% melee taijutsu damage to a selected enemy. So this skill is like the only one that's just kind of like whatever, because literally it doesn't have any extra effects. It doesn't give you anything else on zone, but you can. So once the zone activates, you can do 2 skills. What I mean by that is when this Yuji's turn once, you're gonna select one skill, and then you're gonna select an additional skill that he does after the first skill. So Yuji just gets 2 turns in one. And the punch can be selected in the skills, but even still, it doesn't have any like extra procs or anything like that. But I think you can still hit a Black Flash on the punch because it's a melee move. Yeah, so literally you can Black Flash with that. I mean, it's only 240% melee damage, just whatever. These skills right here that start to get crazy. So this one at level 10 deals 423.2% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy for 2 turns. Increases own ultimate skill gauge charge rate by 20% for 3 turns. So I just like this skill a lot because of that ultimate gauge. If zone state is active, skill effect changes to deals 517.6 melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. Then increases on taijutsu damage by 29%, and ultimate skill gauge charge provided is halved. So if you're in zone, it builds up to your ultimate slower, but that's literally because you can't use your ultimate while you're in zone. So it all balances it out. It all makes sense. Like, yes, you're slowing down how much you're building your ultimate gauge, but even still, Yuji's just doing really grimy damage to the enemy at the moment. And also, when performing an additional action, activates an effect depending on the order what the skill is used. So if you're setting up your 2-hit turn or whatever, if you use this skill first, it's going to increase your critical hit rate by 40% for 1 turn and increase your Black Flash rate by 15% for 1 turn. If you're using it as the second skill, it's going to increase your own damage dealt by 30% for 2 turns. So that's really cool, but keep in mind, every time you use multiple skills in 1 turn, you do need the cursed energy for all of those skills. So if you have 60 cursed energy, theoretically, you can do this twice back to back if you'd like. Then, Exorcism Flurry. Increases own break damage by 160%. That I like a lot. I feel like we don't get a big focus on break characters. There are some here and there, but then deals 520% melee taijutsu damage to select the enemy in 3 hits, and then decreases own damage received by 15% for 2 turns. If zone is activated though, skill effect changes to increases own break damage by 250%. That's an extra 90%, bro. Then deals 680, so that's extra 160% damage dealing. Deals 680 melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy, and then your ultimate skill gauge charge provided is halved. So guys, you can see here the only skill that has an effect that depends on whether it's the first or second skill is the second skill, right, in the turn. The third skill has a zone effect, but it is not affected by whether it's the first attack somebody does or the second attack somebody does, which honestly, I kind of like that as well, because you can feel kind of a progression through all the Yuji's moves, right? Like this skill has nothing on it. Cool, that's a basic skill, expected. This skill has a regular status, has a zone status, and even has differentiation of, okay, if I use this skill first or second in my turns where I have zone, this happens, right? So this is probably the most intricate skill in his kit and the one I'm going to be most excited to test out. But then literally it goes down a level to where it's like, okay, this skill has a zone status, has a regular status, but it doesn't have like a if you use it first or second, right? So that's literally just like going down a level, and then this skill literally just activates zone. So this Yuji, not only is he a good character, he's just a very unique, kind of diverse kind of play style, right? I feel like this is kind of like Yuji's version of getting a domain expansion character, which I think is very cool, because zone is very cool. But guys, those are the characters that I think you should be summoning for and working on, because you'll definitely already have them. Yuji's an anniversary character. We're saving for the first anniversary. I know Gojo's gonna be big, but like, come on, bro. It's Yuji. Yuji's the GOAT. And if you read the manga, you have the utmost respect for this man, Yuji. But also, I do have some honorable mention characters, because guys, I don't want you to think that this video is me telling you like, yo, only summon for these characters, only work on these characters. I know that everybody likes different characters, and I know everybody wants their freedom to be able to summon for whatever characters they want to. I'm just giving you a good idea of some characters that you should lock in on and focus in on, just because you're going to need it in the future, and I want you guys to be well prepared. I want the game to continue to eat and continue to grow, and for the game to continue to eat and to continue to grow, you guys also need to know what you're doing. You guys need to also have that hindsight of like, okay, this is coming, I need to work on this, okay, this is how I work on this. This is what these videos are for. So guys, make sure you're going for these characters specifically that I talked about, but I will go over a few honorable mentions that you guys might have just because you guys like other characters, and that's cool. So I'm gonna throw Incomplete Domain Fushiguro into the mix just because he came out before Yuta. Some people got tempted. I got tempted. I summoned for him. I didn't get him. It is what it is. Don't cry over spilled milk. But some people did get Fushiguro, and Fushiguro is currently the second best DPS in the game right now until I guess we get Yuta tonight, so, or tomorrow, right? So he's an option at the start of turn. Start of turn fills your own cursed energy if you're cursed at the start of each turn, and if cursed energy is 15 or below, fill some of on ultimate gauge. Now guys, I'm not gonna go over his skills too much because I'm just like, this is kind of like an at your own discretion thing. If you like the character enough, I imagine you know what the skills are. I imagine you looked up the skills, and I've gone over a billion characters and shit. So what I will say is this character does have really good melee damage. His damage gets absolutely maniacal whenever you get him in that domain state, and that domain hits hard, bro. So I wouldn't be surprised if you had this Fushiguro, because like I said, he came out before Yuta. Typically, if you want people to summon for other characters who are shittier than characters that came out before them, if you're making a different version, then yeah, you just kind of switch the character orders around, and then all of a sudden this Fushiguro is the second best DPS in the game. Oh wait, Yuta comes out right afterwards, and then all of a sudden Fushiguro is instantly the third best DPS in the game. But either way, you guys might have him, and I still think he's a very good unit because I actually made a free-to-play account and re-rolled for Fushiguro, and then I still have that account now, but I literally have been using that Fushiguro, and I was like, yo, I was trying to focus Fushiguro instead of Gojo on the account because I still got Gojo on my ticket, of course. But in all reality, I think the game just wants me to focus Gojo anyway, because I did summons with my gems, and I got 2 more copies of Gojo. So my Gojo was 2-star, and my Fushiguro was like 1-star, and I was summoning on Fushiguro's banner. So even still, Incomplete Domain Fushiguro actually is a pretty good character. I just think it's beyond the time that you should be summoning for him because Yuta's literally coming out. Like, by the time you're watching this video, yeah, Yuta's coming out at 1 a.m. for me. Like, Yuta's coming out in a few hours. So, like, you should not be summoning for this man right here, bro. But if you already have him, I can see him being a good option for mono teams later on. And that domain is always going to hit hard, bro. So, low-key, more power to ya. This character is not in the global version just yet. This character is actually on the Japanese version, and I will actually go over him just because we don't have him in global, so you guys might not know what he does. But I actually have this character on the Japanese version, and honestly, when I saw them talk about him, it's so funny. I was watching Slug's stream, and he literally was saying, like, verbatim, he was like, yo, if they drop like a bait banner with Kaito right before the anniversary, I might fold. And then they literally dropped a bait banner with Kaito right before the anniversary, and what does Slug do? That boy summoned up. But hey, bro, it is what it is. You gotta be willing to take the risk that you want to take, bro. Like, that's what it's all about being a gacha gamer, bro. It's gambling, bro. You gotta understand that shit's not always gonna be what you want it to be, but you gotta take that chance when you're willing to take that chance, bro. So it is what it is, bro. Pick your poison. But let's go over this Yuki here. Skill 1 is a melee attack, and this Yuki is actually an attacker, but he has so much support built into his kit. Don't be tricked, right? His skill 1 at level 10 does 131.8% melee taijutsu damage, which is less than what the rare did. I think the rare was 150.4%, but even still, this one is going to have a little better taijutsu stat because he's like a higher rarity. And he also decreases his own damage received by 10% for 1 turn. I like this a lot just because it gives him that extra little bit of utility. You want this character to stay alive mainly because he is providing extra cursed energy to your team. So giving himself damage reduction on the basic skill that, like, sometimes you're not going to be able to use your buffing skill on the turn, you have to use the skill 1. So I'm glad that skill 1 has some actual logistical use for the character himself. Skill 2 deals melee combined damage equal to 90.2%. I'm starting to realize that melee doesn't mean taijutsu up here, and melee means close combat. Range is literally just like long range. It's kind of like the cards in 7 Deadly Sins. Anyway, deals melee combined damage equal to 90.2% taijutsu and 150.4% jujutsu to selected enemy. Increases all allies damage dealt by 15% for 3 turns, and that is if they are yellow. So all of a sudden, Kaito's starting to get buffs that look kind of like Masamichi or something like that, you know? Not nothing too crazy like Masamichi. Or maybe this would be closer to like an Anami type buff, because Anami increases his own break damage, I think, and then just increases damage dealt for all allies in general. I think it kind of sucks that it only goes up to Dude, what? They only put it up by 0.6% on the buff every level? Nah, that's a little grimy. I feel like definitely they could have done it by a little more. I feel like this should go from like level 10 for the increase to all allies damage dealt all the way up to like level I feel like 25 wouldn't have been that crazy. Am I crazy for that? I think 25 would have been fine. Also, on this skill right here, that he is buffing all allies damage dealt. If your cursed energy is 30 or above when used, so literally first turn, if you have him, first turn in general, but if you have him level, if you have him 2-star or 2 dupe, then he's starting out at 40 cursed energy. Keep that in mind. Recovers all allies cursed energy by 14 per turn for 2 turns, excludes himself, and reduces his own cursed energy by 5. So if you use a skill and he has more than 30 cursed energy, it's going to use 20 cursed energy plus an additional 5 cursed energy, but it's going to recover hella cursed energy while also giving your allies a damage buff if they're yellow. So, and also guys, he's like the guy for yellow, bro. Kaito's the boy. That's the homie for real. The rare version of him was cold. This version of him cold as hell. The third skill here, Barrier Prism. Deals 270.7 range jutsu damage to a selected enemy. Decreases the selected enemy's damage dealt by 27.1%. Good little extra survivability for your team. Stuns the selected enemy with a 120.3% chance. We love over 100% chances to stun. And decreases all the allies' damage received by 37.6% for 2 turns. That is also good. All effective for yellow types. I think his ultimate is like the craziest shit though. Like his ultimate's insane. Ultimate Prayer Formation Technique. Deals melee combined damage, deals close range combined damage equal to 412% taijutsu, 593% jujutsu. So that adds up. I don't know if you can just add that together directly. That kind of adds up to like 1,000, right? To the selected enemy for 2 hits. Increases all allies jujutsu damage by 60%. And guys, rare Kaito increases all allies jujutsu damage by 128.7%, I think, at max level on his skill on the rare character, right? So this one is giving 60%, which is basically half of that. But if all allies are yellow, not if all allies are yellow, but if the allies are yellow as well, they're getting an additional 80% damage buff. So that's actually 140% for yellow characters specifically. And you know what's really crazy about that? He's included in the damage buff. He gets to include himself in that. And increase his own cursed energy consumption efficiency for 3 turns. So that should drop the cost of these skills. Like this skill should cost 20 or 15 after he does his ultimate. This skill should cost 20 after he does his ultimate. So this Kaito is absolutely ridiculous. Increases his own combo allies damage dealt by 10% for 2 turns. Always love extra damage dealt. And then deals melee combined damage equal to 60% taijutsu and 60% jujutsu to selected enemy. And then at the start of each turn, once 2 turns have passed, if own cursed energy is 30 or above, recovers all allies cursed energy by 5, self-excluded. I wish he was included in a few more parts in his kit, but I understand why he's not. He's already absolutely disgusting. And then I think I have one more honorable mention character. And guys, I do wanna be transparent. Like, I want to summon for this Kaito, like as soon as he comes out on the global version, and still summon for Yuji and still summon for Gojo. But I'm just saying, he might be a skip for you. He's only honorable mention level because he does come literally right before the anniversary banners. So if you feel that like it's crazy to summon on him, I can completely respect that opinion, and I understand if you're just kind of like, okay, no, not that one. But yeah, I think he's still a good choice if you have the means to get all of the characters, because the new Yuji is yellow. The anniversary Yuji, he's yellow. Young Gojo, yellow. You put that Masamichi, who's a crazy buffer, yellow. You put all them together with this man, oh, dude, what? You're not complaining no more. Let's look at the last character. I forgot who the last character is. It was a throw up between 2 different characters. I don't even know. I guess I kind of have to go over this character because he's not on global either. So I will just give you a general. I've never seen the Tsunami used. I've never used the Tsunami. But what I will say is, I looked over his kit one time on the wiki, and I read it, and I actually thought to myself, like, he actually seems like a very competent DPS. But the only problem is that he's a competent yellow DPS, and we literally went over 2 yellow DPSs that I think that you should be summoning for already. And they're definitely, oh dude, what? Yuji and Young Gojo absolutely clear the Tsunami. What? No way, bro. They're festival characters, or limited characters. Not to say that just because they're limited, they're good, but typically that's how gacha games try to do it. And that Yuji actually is good. I've used that Yuji. I've used that Gojo. Let's see. He has to increase his own Black Flash and all that, but so does Yuji. Yuji literally has his ultimate increasing his ultimate is literally a black flash guaranteed, and then he literally just increases black flash rates by 50% after that. Like, dog, that Yuji is crazy as shit. I just can't recommend this Anami. But he's a very competent DPS, I do feel. And if you have him, I wouldn't even be like upset with you, as long as you're not summoning for every single character, right? The list that I made of characters that I'm summoning for, I will admit, that list is very strict. That's why, again, this is not a video telling you, just get these characters. That's why I'm giving you honorable mentions as well. Because I'm just like, yo, I know some of y'all can't control yourselves. I know some of y'all are going to be summoning anyway, bro. And like, honestly, if you have this character works. This character works. This character works. Cool. Glad we had that talk. But guys, this is the last honorable mention. But remember, mono teams will be important in the future in the global version. You don't gotta push it as hard as I'm making it seem right now. Like, you don't need every single one of these characters like max grade, max level, max skills right now. But just know that mono teams being a necessity, that's coming. So you want to be ready for it. And again, the first 4 characters who were Rare Kaito, Young Gojo, SSR Yaga, and then the new anniversary Yuji, those 4 characters I think you should be absolutely trying to get your hands on at some point in this game, and you should be working on them, because I feel like all of those guys are going to be core components to your mono yellow team. But that's it from your boy DEADMANVINCE. If you guys enjoy it, go down below, destroy, annihilate, black flash the like button, and if you hated the video, who cares? Anyway, y'all have a good one. That's your boy DEADMANVINCE signing out.